Well, here we are. 10 rolls, ISO 100, Kentmere 100, black and white film. We're going to load some of this up in the Zorki and try it out. All right. Now, while some people like to trim their film meters out in the field, I think it's a better idea just to go ahead and trim it up ahead of time. So get yourself a good pair of scissors. And what you're going to do is, so if you have film that's manufactured like this with a leader, a tongue on the end, you already know which side you're going to be trimming. But if you're bulk loading film, you're not going to have this little curved cut here. So the way to think about this, to know which side to trim, is the film loads into the camera with the flat side of the cartridge. All right, you have the flat side and you have the pointy side, let's say. The flat side goes into the cartridge like this. And so you can see that the end that you have to trim is going to be the side toward the flat side. Okay? So we're just going to use our little base plate as a measuring guide. And what you really want to do is just cut the film about halfway down, just the way it is, and then curve it out toward the edge, and don't cut across a sprocket hole, right? So just like that, basically. And you could trim all your film ahead of time this way. The other thing that you want to make note of is when you thread the film onto the take-up spool, let's take a look and see the direction it turns. So if I turn the winding knob, you'll see that it turns counterclockwise from the standpoint of the bottom of the camera. So the film comes out of the cartridge here through the film gate, and then it has to, instead of going this way, it's going to go this way. Okay? That's important to note. Okay, so do like this. Remember, this take-up spool turns counterclockwise. Make sure that your tongue is completely over here so you don't potentially damage your shutter. And then you want to make sure that your spool and your cartridge are fully seated. Turn the winding knob, make sure both. Okay. Bottom plate, like that. Lock it. Okay, so when I turn this, there it is. Now the third shot. You see how that knob turned? Okay, so I've cocked the shutter on the third turn, and now I want to set my film counter. I'm going to turn the knob the same direction to 1 on the counter dial. Okay, so now I'm ready to shoot. Here is my Zorki 1E with the Industar 22 lens, roll of Kentmere 100. And so I have my little Sekonic Flashmate L308 modern light meter set to ISO 100. You don't really need to necessarily carry a light meter. You can use a light meter app on your phone, but I kind of like having a light meter, especially if you use it in the incident mode. And so, you know, I'm just going to hold it up here, and so F4 at a 500th. Oh, there we go. And we wind on, and yes, the knob turns. So we hopefully are properly threaded. Well, these early Leica thread mount rangefinder cameras were like the original 35mm camera. These were the kind of cameras that Cartier-Bresson worked with and created his legacy on. Of course, this is the Russian copy of the Leica. You know, I kind of like the form factor of this camera. It's certainly smaller than my Zorki 4 just because the viewfinder, the rangefinder area is shorter. The camera is more compact. But, you know, the benefit of these cameras is really going out and using them and having them with you and being able to shoot film in such a compact package with good quality lenses. Well, we don't know exactly how good this is going to be until we see the results, and I do have a couple options, right? The Industar 22 as well as the slightly bigger non-collapsible Jupiter 8 lens. But I'm going to be going out and using up this roll and then developing it and seeing what we get. Well, here I am down in Nob Hill in Albuquerque. Got the Zorki 1. or don't plan on using the original leather case in practice, but right now, holding a video camera in the other hand, it makes it a little more convenient. I don't foresee using my light meter on every shot. It's more like taking a reading of the light, translating that into the camera settings, and then not really having to meter again unless the light changes, or unless I'm shooting like in shadow instead of bright sun or something. So I'm going to advance the shutter. Then I can set the shutter speed to a 500th of a second. You can set the f-stop at any time, of course, and it's set to f8. And then you want to set your focus. You can either do that by the scale focusing on the lens scale, or you can use the rangefinder patch and adjust accordingly. Well, I've enjoyed shooting with this Zorki 1E, and surprisingly, I really like the leather case thus far. Well, the camera is compact, but it is pretty heavy because it's, made of metal. So having it hung around my neck makes it a little more comfortable to carry than sticking it in a shirt pocket or jacket pocket and having that kind of weight down one side of your body. I didn't think I'd like the leather case, but it actually is pretty nice. Now, one caveat about this case is it's built for the collapsible Industar lens, or the equivalent Leica lens. You can see how short the protrusion is on the front of the case. That won't accommodate a non-collapsible lens with it closed, of course. So kind of built for that Industar collapsible lens, which thus far has been okay. I did make a few errors early on, maybe the first couple shots where I had extended lens, but I didn't rotate it properly, and so it wasn't probably quite at the full extension, which means I'm probably back focusing or something, so those shots may not be good. But as far as the rest of them, we won't really know until I get the roll developed and we examine them a little bit closer. Well, I really enjoyed shooting the Zorki 1E, surprisingly so. Of course, the big question is, are the shutter speeds good? Is the shutter operating properly? And we won't really know until I develop the film, which is the next step in the process. I have results back from the first roll of negatives in this camera, and I got 4 pictures out of 36. That's right, 4 pictures out of 36. The rest of the roll was completely blank. Okay, so obviously a problem. A lot of the pictures were exposed outdoors, so I was using the 500th of a second setting. So today is Tuesday, the day I go over to my friend Ethan's, which I did. I took the camera back over to Ethan. He had some time. So he started checking it out. As it turns out, what's called the clocking of the shutter in relationship to the speed adjustment, and I'm getting all the details probably wrong here, but the clocking was off by about a tooth or two on the gear. What that means is if you wound the winding knob kind of hard, it would get the right speed of 500th of a second, but if you wound it more gently until the hard stop, then the second curtain would release before the first curtain was completely moved, and you basically don't have any gap in there, no slit, so it was not exposing the film. And it was, the clocking was like right on the top of a gear tooth or something, so that it depended on how hard you turn the winding knob. Anyways, a lot of work Ethan did today. He took it all apart, he reclocked it. We also had a problem with
the winding was a little draggy because the new shutter curtain he put in, the metal batten, where you make a loop of fabric around the batten, the fabric had slipped on the batten, so it was slipping down to the bottom of the batten, and as the shutter was moving, it was kind of riding in the lower track of the shutter. So anyways, he had to take apart the shutter and re-glue that better. Anyways, a lot of work he did today, and I really appreciate it. It takes about the same amount of time to fix a camera in general terms, regardless of the value of the camera. And that's why a lot of people don't fix these Russian cameras, because they aren't worth much. But I'm lucky I have a friend like Ethan that has the passion for learning how to do this, and is a good friend. He's willing to do it for me. Okay, so 4 pictures. I got 2 of them I'll show you here right away. So this one picture is a portrait of my grandson, Noah. And it's not too bad. This was just scanned on not a real macro lens, so the resolution's not real high. And the other picture was of a typewriter sitting on the table here, the Smith Corona Electric. And I should mention, in developing the film, I was using Rotenol mixed 1:50, and the massive development chart called for 15 minutes at 20 degrees C, and I developed it for 12 minutes because I thought 15 was a little too long, and I was fairly happy with the results of the negatives that did come out. They looked pretty good. The highlights weren't too blocked up. They may be a little dense, and maybe I might decrease the development a little bit the next time I do this, but I have a whole brick of Kentmere 100 to work with now. So anyways, the camera looks like it's working now good, and also Ethan had an old Leica thread mount case where the top part was ripped off, and so I have a little nifty half case if I want to use it, just to protect the camera in if I don't want to carry it in its original case. So a nifty little Leica branded leather half case, kind of cool. Well, I'll certainly be going out next week with another installment of this series, and hopefully we'll get some good results and I'll share them with you. But until next time, I hope you're having a great time in your creativity. Stay well. Have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye for now.